Reports are coming in that Klay Thompson and the Golden State Warriors are reaching a standstill in contract negotiations, and it's really frustrating Klay Thompson and his camp. And is this the time that the Magic are going to spend big money in free agency, or is this just simply a negotiation tactic from all sides of the room for Klay Thompson and the Golden State Warriors to end up reaching a deal? We're going to get into all of that, but first, I would love to hear what everybody thinks in the comments. Should the Orlando Magic, with their extended cap space this summer, continue to make a push for Klay Thompson? Or should they hold on to it a little bit, maybe spend some money on a role-playing shooter off the bench, which that could be Klay Thompson, but one that's cheaper than Klay Thompson and who could be a trade piece in a year or two? Or should they bring out the Brinks truck for Paul George, who was also a part of this entire Klay Thompson saga? Should they spend the $50 million in cap space on Paul George in a potential sign and trade? Let me know in the comments. Your opinion is very much welcome here at Magic Digest, and let's get into it. All right, so the initial report is coming from Legion Hoops. Brett Siegel of the NBA, who's covering the NBA, he says Klay Thompson has been extremely frustrated, in quote, with the Warriors, with the way the Warriors have handled his contract negotiations. Now, I think this is obvious. I don't think anybody's surprised by this necessarily. But what was really more surprising was why. We're now finally starting to see, or hear rather, why exactly the Warriors aren't into signing Klay Thompson. And this comes from the same individual, Brett Siegel, covering the NBA. He says the Warriors still value Thompson's contributions to their historic success, sources said, yet some in the organization do not view him as an essential part of their core group moving forward with the emergence of Jonathan Kuminga and Brandon Podziemski. Now, this, like I said, it's all starting to make sense why they're not wanting Klay Thompson on a 3-year deal, why they offered him 2 years, why it's going to be a bit of a grudge match with their younger guys, trying to get them more playing time, trying to get them in. So this is where the Warriors are at right now. The Warriors are certainly not, in the mood right now to spend money on Klay Thompson, and they're saying, "Hey, look, we got these young guys in house. You scored 0 points in the biggest game of the year. You were 0 for 10 from the field, 0 for 6 from 3. We don't know if we want to spend that sort of money." There are reports saying that he wants a 3-year deal. They gave him 2. They want to invest in their young guys. They're going to have to eventually pay for them. They want to make the most of Steph Curry's years. So that is probably the best summary of what is going on in Golden State right now. Not on the same page, but man, they don't want to see him, in a Tony Parker era, Scottie Pippen era, where he goes to another team at a different place in his career and doesn't end up retiring with them, right? They don't really want to see that, but that is the main reports. So to pair with this statement that is coming in just today from Brett Siegel was also Mike Dunleavy, who was answering questions in a press conference yesterday about, hey, look, why isn't Klay Thompson on the team? A reporter asked, can you just describe where the state of those talks is? Is there an offer on the table right now? And as I already said, there was, and there have been reports that they offered a 2-year deal. Mike Dunleavy Jr., the Warriors GM, says, all that stuff, I think, honestly, Tim, is private. We want him back. I think we've said that all along. Hopeful he'll come back. But as far as the specifics of discussions and those types of things, I think it's important to keep in-house. When we figure out a solution to all of that, we'll have the news for you. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, as far as actually being able to share that sort of news. But I think we're starting to now see, look, they're not exactly going to be giving us, we're not going to know exactly what's going on until the very end, until he's signed on the dotted line with potentially the Orlando Magic or any other team in free agency. We're not going to know completely. But we're starting to put some things together as far as, look, the Warriors and Klay Thompson are potentially on different paths. So that is probably the best that I can do with the Warriors right now. We don't know everything, but that is the Warriors situation. So where do the Magic come in on this? Well, the Magic have been the team almost that's been it's like on this blind date, so to speak. They've had no connection with Klay Thompson. There's not been too much outside of him and the Warriors breaking up. But you know that the Magic are single and they're out there on the prowl, and they have $50 million, like I said, in cap room, and they need a shooter. It seems like the perfect fit. It's like the two friends that you got. Well, here they are, right? You think they're always compatible, but they're not single at the same time. Well, now they are, and they can afford them. So I think that that's kind of the biggest thing that's going on with them right now. When we're looking at the Warriors team, I'm thinking, look, they need a shooter. They need somebody like Klay Thompson who is averaging what he's averaging right now. We're seeing him at 43% from the field, and most importantly, 39% from three. And that is going to be huge. Now, what is the Magic's angle with this? The Magic are probably looking at wanting to get a shooter that's not Joe Ingles. That's not like Joe Ingles who they got last year. I did obviously ask everybody, look, would you want a role-playing shooter? Joe Ingles was that guy. They signed him on a one-year deal, and they said, look, we're going to have control to cut him. They probably will cut him very soon. I believe he's owed about $13 million coming up in this next season, so they'll probably cut him, and he probably won't be on the team any longer. But when we compare those guys, this is a major upgrade. This is definitely something that we're looking at saying, like, look, he's going to be much better, Klay Thompson is, than Joe Ingles. So they're looking at that and they're saying, look, we already made this run last year where we saved some of the cap space and we got Joe Ingles. Why not go on ahead and get Klay Thompson? We want to show Paolo Banchero that we can win. Well, they're at a little bit of a dilemma. I think that dilemma comes along the way of Franz Wagner and his contract extension. When we just see Scotty Barnes get 5 years, $270 million plus, that's going to be the price tag for Franz Wagner. When Scotty Barnes gets signed, you're thinking, look, we got to pay Franz, right? There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's going to be the price tag because all Magic fans, myself included, are going to argue, hey, look, Franz is better than Scotty Barnes. It's been a debate that's going on for their entire careers and all 3 of the years that they've been here. So why wouldn't that be the amount that you pay for him? It will be. It will be. Or somebody else is going to pay it, in restricted free agency or what have you. So you just need to make sure, if you're the Magic, you got to have Klay Thompson's number, which could potentially be a little bit higher than most Orlando Magic fans want. You need to make sure that number's off the books. You need to make sure that he is not going to get in the way of you re-signing or extending Franz Wagner, Jalen Suggs, too, who's also going to have to get paid. Certainly not a max deal, but he'll be on the books. And then Paolo, right? We're showing him that we want to win. I mentioned that a little bit earlier, just briefly. Want to show him that, hey, we're competitive. We want you to buy into us as a franchise and as people or as the front office that wants to win actively. But we need to re-sign him too. So they're kind of going through all of that and saying, look, where does he fit? But from a basketball standpoint, Klay Thompson probably would be the best that we could do right now. But I've mentioned Klay Thompson. I've mentioned the Magic, what that means for the Magic, what that means for the Warriors and that relationship. Time to get into Paul George. What exactly is going on with Paul George right now? It's kind of looking like he could be on the Golden State Warriors or the Magic, and that really throws a wrench into Klay Thompson. They're kind of fighting over these two guys right now. There's no basketball reason, truthfully, why the Magic wouldn't want Paul George. He fits. I mean, sure, like you're wing heavy, but we've been big heavy in years when we had Vucevic, Aaron Gordon, all of those guys, and this would be champagne problems compared to a front court that wasn't exactly world beaters. Having Paul George, and Franz, I think we would be okay. So there's no basketball reason for why we wouldn't want to sign Paul George. It would just be the money. Would you want to spend $50 million? And what would the signing trade look like? For the Warriors, the two young guys I mentioned are probably going to have to be sign-in trade, and they definitely wouldn't bring back Klay Thompson in that deal. And then you're looking at an average age of about 100 years old on the Golden State Warriors, so I don't know if they're truthfully going to do it. So maybe this does leave a potential Paul George reunion or not reunion, excuse me, but potentially Paul George can come to Orlando and rewrite some of his bubble woes that he occurred when he was down in Orlando the first time around. That is definitely an option, a possibility. We'll have to see exactly what ends up happening. So I think right now the biggest things to look at are the draft. What are these teams going to do in the draft? If the Magic, invest in another shooter, they invested in a shooter in the last draft. If they continue to do that, then maybe we're looking at the Magic are going to, not invest exactly in Klay Thompson. if they're looking at some other pieces that they want to do, like for scoring off the bench, they're probably not going to go for Klay Thompson. Any move that the Magic make that takes away from their cap space would eliminate Paul George. And I think for the Warriors right now, their biggest thing is they don't want to get into the first apron of the luxury tax. If they could somehow move some players around and sign Klay Thompson and avoid that, or sign Klay Thompson just period and not have to move anything around and avoid it, they're going to do that. I think that's going to be probably their number one. They want to keep this core together. I think they're intrigued by the Paul George move, but it's going to take a sign and trade to do that, and I don't know if they're going to completely commit to that. And they're only about $3 million away from the first apron. I believe their payroll is already right now somewhere around $170 million. That's going to put them right near the first apron, and then that makes that Klay Thompson deal worth a lot more. But the Magic certainly aren't really touching that, at least for this year, and then potentially, obviously, in the years coming whenever they re-sign Wagner, Suggs, and Banchero. But like I said, everybody mention what you would like the Magic to do. What reports are you believing? What are you not believing? This saga has been going on now for a very long time, and I'm just now starting to really truly believe that Klay Thompson could join the Orlando Magic. But that's all the time that we have for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.